I'm going to show you Judy's Magic Cast On using double pointed needles. You can see Judy's Magic Cast On at nitty.com. It's a really neat way of creating a closed toe with no seam for a toe up sock. You want to start with your strand. You will be using the tail, so just like in a long tail, you want to come out a ways, about a foot, or it depends on what kind of yarn you're using. This is a little bit thicker than a typical sock. So take 2 double pointed needles, and like I said, most of the time this is shown using circular needles. I personally just like doing my socks on double points, so I just usually don't bother. You want to drape the yarn over this top needle here. This strand that's coming out of here is the tail end of the strand out there. And this one that's coming in the front is attached to the ball of yarn. And then put your fingers in there. The one that's the tail, that's going to go over my forefinger, and the one attached to the ball is going to be on my thumb. The grip is a lot like the long tail cast on. And so I'm holding them down here to keep some tension. You don't want it to be so tight when you're forming these that you can't stand to knit them later, but you do, of course, want a certain amount of tension. So the first stitch is on the needle here, and the second one is going to be made by the forefinger. I'm sort of twisting my hand so that I can come from below up over this bottom needle and put the strand in between. There's stitch number 2. Then I'm going to turn my hand, come around the back between the 2 needles, and that's stitch number 3 was made by my thumb. Now it's time to do the 4. You're going to alternate between the thumb and the forefinger, and what the thumb and the forefinger are doing is the same every time. So the thumb is coming up over the top, and the forefinger's coming from the bottom. And you just go back and forth like that, ending with the forefinger. Okay, and I don't move anything. I just finished with the forefinger. That was the last stitch right there. And I'm going to count them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So that's the number I wanted. If I was short or had too many, my hand's still in position, it would be easy to add another one. I would start with the thumb if I needed to add one, for example. So now the stitches are on this end. What I want to do is, while hanging on to this one here, that's keeping that close, because if you let it go, it will unravel. I'm going to turn the needles so that they're pointed this way. Okay, and the tail strand is back here. Like I said, I'm keeping tension on it until I get this first row going, because if you don't, the thing will unravel. Make sure that you have, in fact, got the I've got something hooked up on a cord here, the ball strand, okay? And I'm going to just knit like I normally knit. Go to this top needle, and knit it. Okay. This is going to be a bit fiddly, that first row. And I'm my own camera person. I'm hoping I'm keeping this, trying to look at what I'm doing and keeping it on camera is a bit tricky. Okay. And it will be awkward and tight, and the reason, and I can let go of that tail strand now at this point, because and the sticks will tend to want to like twirl a little bit. You don't want them to twirl so much that you actually get something twisted. But the reason is that until I get past this first round or two, I still have something that's round on two needles. Okay, finish that first half of the round. Now, when I go to do the back half, I want to have a needle ready, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit half the stitches. In this case, it's 4. I'm going to knit half of these on one needle, and then I'm going to do the other half on another needle, because in order to get around, what I really need are 3 needles at least. And the other thing you have to know about this second needle is the cast on, the way it's done, these stitches are mounted different than my typical mount. The stitch is sort of open and facing. It's a little hard to see on this very first one, but instead of the front leg being closer to the tip, the back leg is closer to the tip. So this only on this one row at the very beginning, what I really need to do is knit into the back leg back here for this side. And I'm going to do 4. Okay, now I have 4 stitches on this one, and now I'm going to pick up another needle and I'm going to do these last 4. And I hope you see where I'm still knitting into the back of the stitch. If you're not familiar with double points, this may seem more difficult, but I find that sliding on the cable cord bugs me. So it's all about finding what works for you. Okay? And I also know that this is the beginning of my round, the one that has half the stitches on it, and that these 2 are the second half of my round. It is now time to do my increase round. I've done a plain round all the way around. So what I need to do is I'm going to do, because it's going to end up being stockinette fabric here, I do not want to use a knit into the front and the back. A knit in the front and the back increase would make a bump in my fabric, and I want it to be rather transparent, make one. My favorite one is to use I call it a cursive E. I learned it from Elizabeth Zimmerman's patterns, and the increases are going to happen. I'm going to knit this stitch and then do an increase here. And then I'm going to come to the next to the last stitch and do an increase right in here. Then I'm going to knit this stitch and do an increase here, come all the way across, do an increase here, and knit this last stitch. So they'll be paired increases so that I will, of course, get that lovely toe shape that I'm going for. So what is the E increase? I knit this one. Okay, I just take the strand like that. It looks like a cursive E. And then I drop it on the needle. Okay, you don't want it to be too tight. You want it to be the same size as your other stitches. And you want it to make sure that the strand, when I get to the other one, I'll show you how you want the strand to be locked in there, because otherwise what you would be making is a yarn over, and a yarn over would create a hole in your fabric, which we don't want. Okay, so when I do it and I'm dropping it on there, I know I've done it correctly. This strand is caught in between here. See, it's like in between here, as opposed to, you know, doing something where you drop it and then realize that you just have laid it over and it's not trapped. Okay, so there we go. That side's done. Okay, I'm going to go on to this side. I'm going to knit this one. Make an increase. Now, some people get confused and they think they should be doing an increase because it's towards the end of the needle, but no, I'm not done until I get over to here. this side. And like I said, the needles have the stitches. Okay, now I've got one stitch left. That's where I want to do the other pair of the increases. Okay, so there's the toe of my sock starting to be generated. Now it's time to do a plain round. I'm going to literally knit all of these stitches all the way around. And then after I've done a whole plain round, then I would do the round where I would do a knit one, make one here, go across here, make one. And the reason you don't want to, you have plain rounds is the more plain rounds you have between your increase rounds, the slower the slope is of your increase. So if I would stack them, the increases one on rounds one on top of the other, my toe would be pointed like this. And of course, I want my toe to have a gradual increase like this. So therefore, I have plain rounds in between the increase rounds. And if you're like not sure which round you're on, when you get to it, you can tell whether it's time to do an increase or not by looking at that stitch. And if you look at the stitch and it's got like just a twisted around type looking thing, then you know you just did an increase round. It's time to do a plain round, and so on. And at the beginning, you do want to check. So like if I have 10 stitches here, and I have 5 and 5, the total of these two needles should equal this needle. If they're out of sync, it means that you've done something like you increase this side and then you forgot to increase that side or something like that. And you don't want to get them out of sync with this particular toe architecture. Thank you.